We're just going to have to accept the risk. When the sun decides it's summer, we'll fire up again and use the resources we free up as efficiently as possible for everyone. The record books were rendered obsolete by Parker Schnabel. Not a few thousand ounces of gold, mind you. We are discussing a finding that is so significant that it is valued at an incredible $80 million. The Gold Rush Star is having more than one successful season. This transformative jackpot was discovered in a location that no one dared to enter. Everything else becomes a trivial detail when the ground is good. I'll mine for the benefit of the ground. He had to risk every dime he had, push his crew to the limit, and discover a secret that had been locked away for thousands of years in order to get to it. The buried gold waterfall in Alaska. Standing on the brink of a frozen chasm, Parker Schnabel gazed at a section of the Alaskan wilderness that had engulfed the hopes and ambitions of many miners before him. This was no mere assertion. It was a tale, a location that was spoken in whispers in the Yukon's bars. The ground, in what they termed the Widow's Cut, a collapsed ice mine shaft, was thought to contain a fortune, but was also regarded as a merciless death trap. It was insane to even consider mining here. It was insane to stake your whole business on it. But Parker actually did just that. $15 million of his personal funds were forced onto the table. If he was mistaken, that amount would bankrupt him 10 times over. It was just a ridiculously costly spring. This year, while we haven't even begun, we have already spent more than we have ever spent in a season. The problem about gold mining that no one tells you is that it's more like high-stakes geological chess than it is about swinging a pickaxe. Parker was confident enough to place this risky wager because he had a secret weapon, an ace under his sleeve. He had hired a group of geologists to do a covert survey with LAR technology, which basically used lasers to look through the earth. The info that was returned was explosive. It indicated the presence of an old prehistoric waterfall system buried well below the permafrost, which shouldn't be there. The gold concentration projected by the models was so enormous and extraordinarily rich that it was almost legendary. The expected amount was an overwhelming $80 million. It was one of those once-in-a-century discoveries. An actual generational windfall. Holy dude, is that it? You have been selected. Look at that. What did you discover just now? Whoa, that is really insane. Isn't that unbelievable? Those who watch this will not even believe it. There are more, take a look at it. However, the data merely appeared as a ghost on a computer screen. Thousands of tons of frozen rock and mud still covered the gold. Parker had to wage war on 2 fronts in order to obtain it. He took the painful choice to divide his staff, which put a serious strain on his available resources. One crew would work their current claim in a valiant attempt to extract enough gold to pay for the operation's outrageous weekly expenses. In order to unlock the fabled reward and melt the impossible, the second team, his elite squad, would take on the Widow's Cut. Unreasonable demands from a manager who, likes to have unreasonable expectations are present in our current circumstance, along with terminal work. There was a great deal of pressure. The process consumed enough fuel to run a small village every day, costing tens of thousands of dollars. The cost of operating a single Delevan bulldozer alone is more than $500 per hour. The Alaskan winter was waiting to bury them all. The clock was running out, and the costs were mounting. He had just placed all of his money on a site that had destroyed greater men. But when the ground itself rebels, ambition and technology are useless. Fighting the permafrost. The gold weigh-ins you watch on TV have a lot of fans, but they don't show you the heartbreaking monotony that follows. At the old claim, Parker's crew had to face a heartbreaking truth. They were transporting thousands of cubic yards of dirt per hour, which amounted to actual mountains. However, the money was not flowing in. The air became tight. The crew believed that they were working under unreasonable demands from a boss who was struggling due to the consequences of his $80 million investment. In the meantime, the permafrost and the squad at the Widow's Cut were engaged in a vicious street brawl. There's more to this than chilly soil. As hard as concrete, it is a solid frozen mass. It is also the most significant obstacle in Yukon mining. They needed to defrost it in order to have any hope of getting to the pay dirt. And bringing in the mechanical creatures was part of that. The operation depended on 2 giants and 2 crucial pieces of equipment that would decide its outcome. The Sleufer, A dependable, albeit aging, wash plant came first. However, Parker's custom-built, multi-million-dollar wash plant, Big Red, was the true secret to triumph. What a beast this thing is. It is more than 150 feet long and is built to process hundreds of tons of pay dirt every hour, sorting gold from the sand and useless rock. It was an enormous undertaking in and of itself to assemble it on the shaky, frozen ground. The workers had to carefully maneuver the enormous parts into position, using hefty chains and enormous excavators. Their season-making machine would be reduced to a mess of twisted metal, with only one misstep or incorrect move. Disaster happened just as they were getting Big Red up and running. Before a vital screen inside the machine ripped apart, a violent shudder was caused by a surge of large boulders that blocked the system. The operation's mechanical heart suffered a heart attack. The whole mine fell silent. A gold miner's worst enemy is downtime. Every hour, thousands of dollars are stolen by this silent thief. You must be joking with me. It always does. They weren't just losing money because the equipment was broken. At a horrifying rate, they were actively losing it. In order to repair the damage, the crew hurried and worked non-stop in the bitter cold. Their frustration is boiling over, and their hands are numb. Parker's $80 million dream was in danger of becoming a $15 million hole in the ground due to a technical nightmare. However, a breakdown might occasionally result in an unanticipated discovery. Extra gold beyond their wildest expectations with Big Red is now fully recovered and roaring to life. The time has come for the truth. The beast was fed the first loads of pay dirt from the fabled Widow's Cut. The crew has seen nothing except frozen muck and bare rock for days. It was the lowest morale in history. Then, however, an amazing thing occurred. Everyone stopped in their tracks when a color emerged as the initial concentrations were washed into the SLLE box. Gold. Not just a few dots, either. It was used to paint the box's bottom. With astonished eyes, the crew crowded around them. Although they had previously witnessed successful cleanouts, this one was unique. This was really different. No longer was the $80 million theory merely a theory. It was immediately in front of them, real and palpable. Over thousands of years, the ancient waterfall had concentrated gold into a single, incredibly valuable deposit, acting as a natural cello box. You know, it took everyone here, and it's a great accomplishment. I simply wanted to say how much I appreciate all of your hard work. Where they formerly found grams, they were now extracting ounces. The initial way in was astounding. The second was significantly larger. It was difficult to understand how wealthy they were on a pay streak. The electric pleasure of the quest took the place of the crew's fatigue and frustration. They were involved in a historic event. In the most dramatic way possible, Parker's wild gamble was paying off. The figures were astounding. They processed more gold in 1 week than some mines do in a whole season. The gold continued to come out of the freezing ground in an unending river of bright metal. Parker destroyed his own private documents. The records for the whole Klondike were then broken by him. He had discovered the mother lode, the lottery that all children dream of. To protect what he referred to as a generational treasure from prying eyes, he shut the mine's gates. The mining community was rocked by the announcement of his finding. Parker Schnabel had developed into more than simply a young prodigy. He was the Klondike's undeniable ruler. However, such a significant discovery sparks unwelcome attention and irrational speculation. A success story as big as Parker's, which debunks the myths of the gold rush, is sure to raise some eyebrows. The murmur began almost immediately as the public learned of the $80 million show. Online, a lot of individuals started discussing the same old fan theory, creates gold. According to this theory, the show's creators covertly add gold flakes to the mine to ensure dramatic weigh-ins for the cameras. Following every successful reality mining show is a persistent myth, a method for viewers to interpret seemingly unreal fortunes. Let's examine it then. Is it feasible that the entire amazing discovery was a well-planned television show? What no one tells you is that, even though reality TV producers are skilled at exposing issues, manipulating dialogue, generating drama, and building suspense, it is nearly impossible to fake a gold mine of this magnitude. It came to a total of 77,381. It's not real. Puts us in a great position for the upcoming years. A conspiracy of epic proportions would be required to covertly plant thousands of ounces of gold into solid permafrost. Deceiving team of seasoned miners. and creating the intricate geological information Parker utilized to locate the location. The mining itself is 100% real, despite the fact that interpersonal conflict may be exaggerated for the cameras. According to former cast members and industry insiders, there are actual financial hazards. The gold is very, very genuine, and the equipment malfunctions are real. Throwing out that basic notion, however, opens the door to much more intriguing and adventurous alternatives. Let's take a closer look. Could it be that the $80 million figure was a well-thought-out move in a high-stakes Klondike chess game rather than merely a discovery? This is where things start to go crazy. According to some, the number was leaked strategically. Announcing a find of that size is like setting off a flare in a world where miners are always vying for the best land. It could be a power move to deter rivals from pursuing nearby claims, or to draw in the best crew members for upcoming seasons who wish to work for a winner. It might even be a means of greatly exaggerating the worth of his whole business in preparation for a possible sale in the future. And then there's the actual land deal. Although the show portrays it as a straightforward lease, the reality of Alaskan mining claims is a complex web of alliances and backroom transactions. I just signed an agreement today, and I've been talking to him about buying him out. Really? Yes. According to a different perspective, the $80 million valuation served as the key to a deal that was far more complicated than what we were shown. Was the owner of the land complicit? Was this figure necessary to get investors to give enormous loans to finance an even larger expansion? In actuality, land has a past. Rumors link the Widow's Cut to stories of a mine that was lost during the first gold rush, a location that was shown on historical maps before disappearing. It raises the question of whether Parker discovered it with someone other than a liar. Maybe an old journal or a tip from an unknown source told him exactly where to look. This leads us back to a question that is equally appealing but more grounded. Is the entire financial story being shown? It's one thing to have $80 million under the ground, but how much of that does Parker keep? You know, the harsh, merciless math of gold mining is what they don't explain to you on TVA. A huge portion of that treasure is gone before Parker has even paid for a drop of petrol. The landowner may receive astronomical royalties of up to 15% to 20%. He must send a check for $16 million to someone else on a fine of $80 million. Immediately, the number decreases. Then there are the unspoken expenses that are never included in the drama on film. When miners are finished, they must reclaim the ground in accordance with environmental regulations. This goes beyond simple cleaning. Reconstructing the earth and restoring the environment is a multi-million-dollar endeavor that is required by law. Profits are silently destroyed by it. In addition, the operation itself is always losing money. I appreciate you finishing this. The setup is good, although there will always be a few kinks to iron out. I like the plan thus far. Fuel for a fleet of enormous machines that run non-stop costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. The enormous salary for a group of highly compensated experts, and the payments to the investors who initially provided the funds for his risk. Parker's take-home pay is a negligible portion of that astounding headline figure by the time all expenses are settled. The plot really picks up steam at this point. Doesn't it make you wonder? It seems like everything occurs at once when you watch these guys make a fortune out of nothing. An unexpected, startling revelation that alters everything. But does it actually operate that way? It's not just mud and permafrost where the main game is played. One uses a spreadsheet to play it. Could such a significant discovery be kept a secret? Perhaps the most significant discovery was not the discovery of the gold, but rather the ability to navigate the perilous human factor in the harsh financial realities that follows. In actuality, we viewers may only be witnessing the beginning. Like the gold itself, the most intricate and fascinating aspects are buried deep within this meticulously constructed tale. However, it raises a contentious issue. Does one individual deserve a riches that the earth has built up over millions of years? Please share your opinions in the comments section below. For more amazing tales, remember to subscribe and like this video.